In order to understand the basic building blocks of reading, we need to consider letters and their corresponding sounds. These sounds are called phonemes, and they are separated into consonants and vowels. Through the use of a consonant chart, we are able to map consonant sounds into two categories. The manner of articulation, on the left side going vertically, describes how phonemes are made through our production of airflow. And the place of articulation, moving horizontally, describes what movements our mouth is making as phonemes are produced. The information on the chart is helpful to teachers because in order to teach our students how to become better readers, we need to be able to break words down into sounds, allowing students to decode, recode, and blend sounds to form words. Phonology is the foundation for literacy skills to develop and is important to build word knowledge through speaking, reading, and writing by associating letters with their corresponding letter sounds. As Louisa Cook Motes states within Speech to Print on page 26, spoken word recognition, pronunciation, and interpretation depend on accurately processing phonemes. The chart is also valuable because it allows us to separate each phoneme, see how each sound is set apart, and allows us to describe the distinction of each sound to our students. The major groups of consonants classified by manner of articulation are stops, nasals, fricatives, affricates, glides, and liquids. Through each sound, we will look at voicing, when we define a sound as voiced or unvoiced, contingency, how long a sound can be produced or extended, and nasality, when air is sent through the nose. We are going to begin with stops. Stops occur when there is just one pop of breath, and the sound cannot be stretched out because it exists for a short time. The sound is an example of an unvoiced stop. This phoneme is unvoiced because when we make the sound, our vocal cords are disengaged or quiet. The sound B, on the other hand, is an example of a voiced stop. Although the sound is also short with one pop of breath, our voice box rumbles or vibrates when we say it. B. A great way to feel this unvoiced or voiced difference is to plug your ears with your fingers and say each sound. It is clear which sound engages your vocal cord. We notice as well that when we say each of these sounds, our lips are together, showing the placement of the sound. So, P is unvoiced, and B is voiced in when your lips are together. So it will be lips together, unvoiced and voiced. P and B. The next category, nasals, describes phonemes that make a sound that comes through your voice box and out your nose. You will notice that when you try to make the sound n and pinch your nose, the sound cannot be made due to the blocked airflow. This shows that the sound indeed comes out of your nose. We also notice that when we make the n sound, the placement of where the sound is made is when our tongue is on the ridge behind our teeth. We can see this difference through looking through the mirror. Make the sound also a nasal phoneme, and then switch to So, So do you notice how your mouth placement shifts? Yes. So our will be with our lips together. And The next category, fricatives, should remind you of the word friction. In a fricative, something is getting in the way of the sound coming out. There is not a clear path for the sound to get out. We can see this especially with the sound f, because we can see how the sound fights through the placement of our teeth. Fricatives are also continuants, which means that the sound will continue as long as you have breath. It is not a pop of sound. We can hear the difference in our voiced and unvoiced fricatives through the sounds f and v. V makes our voice box vibrate, while f does not get through even though our mouth placement is the same. So f and v. So that will be teeth on our lips. And
It's voiced.
The category of affricates are not continuants, but they continue to have friction. We can see this through the sound ch and j. Let's take a moment to consider the placement of our mouth with these sounds, ch and j. Ch, j. Take a mirror and watch how the placement stays the same for ch and j.
Ch, j, ch, j.
Take a second as well to review the previous sounds that we made. N, and b. So, n, b. The last two categories are glides and liquids. So affricates, so F and
Yes. Ch,
and J.
which is unvoiced. J.
Yeah, mid voice.
Okay.
No, I lost my. Okay, glides occur when the phonemes are able to glide into other sounds around them. For example, the sound y slides in the word cucumber. We can also consider the placement of this sound and how our tongue is pulled back on the roof of our mouth when we say it. Y.
Yeah.
We can also determine that the y sound is voiced with our vibration. So tongue pulled back on the roof of our mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Liquids are sounds that are slippery and bleed into other sounds. Examples of this are the phonemes l and r. These are the most difficult because they float in the mouth and have no clear beginning or end point in articulation. When we consider the placement of these two sounds, we can see that l occurs when the tongue is on the ridge behind the teeth, and is made when the tongue is pulled back on the roof of our mouth. So l occurs the tongue is on the ridge behind our teeth,
Mm-hmm.
and is on the roof of our mouth. When considering this information, how do you find it useful in the classroom?
Well, I think that just helping the student articulate the sound, knowing how the sound is formed in their mouth, and with their voice would help, of course, with articulation and then translate into spelling, because they would know that letter, that's the sound that they make. I think it would especially help them articulate. If they're having trouble making the sound, that I know that I can teach them where their tongue should be. Instead of just saying the sound to them, I can actually tell them, this is where your tongue should be, behind your teeth or the roof of your mouth. It's a voiced or unvoiced. I think the articulation piece would be helpful for a student to actually say the sounds, and then of course that would flow into matching the sound of the letter and in their spelling.
Yeah, I agree with the modeling because I also thought it was neat how they very interactive
Mm-hmm.
ways to recognize the difference between the sounds that there are.